Chapter The American Civil War. Before we begin with this chapter, here is a small gist what you're going to cover in the entire chapter. How many answers are there and which part has which answers. Before we begin, let me just make a small note. You're studying from the video, you have certain advantages. You can directly skip to those answers or you can directly move on to those answers which you want to do. In case there are certain answers which you know and you want to skip them out, you can. You can play the video in faster speed. You can play the video in slower speed as per your preference. This is something which studying from the video gives you an advantage and you can take. Now let's see what we are going to cover in this chapter. The chapter has a total of 21 answers. All of them are short answers. Question 1 and 2 are introduction based. Question 3 to 9 are those questions which speak about the background leading to the American Civil War. Then you speak about the American President Abraham Lincoln, question 10 to 14. Question 15 to 20 is the Gettysburg Address. And finally, question 21 is a picture study, which has come in various school papers. Let's see the first question of the chapter. We speak about the first half of the 19th century. The first half of the 19th century saw great changes which took place in the United States of America. So two things. Number one, we are speaking about 19th century dateline. Number two, as the name of the chapter says, American Civil War. So we are going to speak about the United States of America. 19th century and USA. This is where the chapter is located geographically and on the timeline. 19th century and USA. The two major developments which took place during this period were number one, the great westward expansion, and number two, the industrial growth and development. So, what does the two developments mean? Number one, the great westward expansion. This means that USA was growing now as a continent. It was discovered by Columbus in the 15th century. And now in the 19th century, it was starting to flourish, it was starting to grow. And number two, industries were growing and developing. Industrial development had happened, industrial revolution had started. Although industrial revolution began in US, industrial revolution had began in Britain, it was spreading to all over the world. And industries were going to develop in USA as well now. Before we go ahead, let's see the meaning, what is meant by a civil war, because that's the name of the chapter, right? American Civil War. What is meant by a civil war? A civil war is a war between organized groups, and these organized groups are within the same state or same country. So there are two organized groups fighting, and these two groups are within the same state or same country. The aim of a civil war is that the one side may want to take control of the entire country or region, or to achieve independence for a region, or to change the government and policies in that region. So here also in America, the same thing happened. The North fought with the South. I will not tell you now who won the war, but the aim was the same, to take control of the country, region, achieve independence, or to change the government policies which are there. This is the main aim why a civil war is fought. Let's see the background leading to the American Civil War. In this part of the chapter, you will be covering from question number 3 to question number 9. In each question, I've divided the section into questions for your easy understanding. Like question number 3 will be speaking about manufacturing, shipping, and grape plantations. They are all short answers. Question number 4, Lancashire, cotton mills in Lancashire. Cotton growing industries gave rise to serious problems. Question number 6, perception of slavery. Slaves were considered as a necessity. Question number 7. Question number 8, treatment of the slaves. And question number 9, Uncle Tom's Cabin. These are all questions which are telling you the background which will lead to the Civil War. Let's see question number 4. As I told you, each part is divided into questions and all are short answers. These will eventually lead to the American Civil War. You need to understand the background before beginning of the American Civil War. Let's see the first one, question number 4. Sorry, question number 3. Manufacturing, shipping, and grape plantations. While the northern states of USA developed manufacturing and shipping centers, the southern states developed great plantation industries, the most important being cotton growing. So, what did the North expand into? North America expanded into manufacturing and shipping. These were factories making, manufacturing, and shipping. Whereas the Southern became agricultural economy. The South America was good for had great plantations. They developed into agricultural economy, and which was the main crop they were growing. The main crop they were growing was the cotton, which became they flourished into cotton growing industries. Question number 4, cotton mills in Lancashire. Much of this cotton, which was grown in South America, was shipped to cotton mills in Lancashire in England. Here is a photo. Whatever cotton was grown in South America, much of this was getting shipped to Lancashire in England because there were the cotton mills. In England, industrial revolution had happened, was growing. So where the industrial revolution had created huge demand for raw material. So question number 3 and 4 on this page. 3 spoke about manufacturing and shipping industries growing. In the north, south became agricultural, agrarian. Cotton was mainly grown. Question number 4 in short spoke about whatever was much of it which was grown in South America was going to England in Lancashire. Because of industrial revolution, there was a huge demand for raw materials there. Let's see question number 5. The cotton growing industry gave rise to serious problems. So growing cotton was not easy. It gave rise to serious problems in the USA. What were these problems? Let's see. As the plantations increased, number 1, so did the demand for labor. More plantations, more demand for labor. The only available source of labor in those days was the slaves, which was bought in from Africa and were living in America. So this was the first problem. As plantations grew, demand for labor also grew, and the only source available for labor in those days were the slaves which were bought in from Africa and were living in America. The issue of slavery eventually turned into an explosive problem that would threaten the very existence of the American Union. So you will see that this slavery problem grows and grows. It eventually leads to American Civil War, but there is more to it which we will study in the coming 2-3 pages. Let's see question number 6, perception of slavery. 3 points. First one, by the middle of the 19th century, slavery had been abolished throughout the British Empire. So it was clear British Empire said no to slavery. Point number two, perception of slavery also changed in other countries where it was now looked upon as evil. And third one, anti-slavery movements began in the northern states of America. So British Empire, other countries as well as northern states of America are saying no to slavery. They have abolished slavery. Question 7, slaves were considered a necessity. So not everyone is saying no to slavery. Someone said yes to slavery. Who were they? Let's see. Again, 3 points. The industrialized northern states did not need slaves in their industries and on the whole did not approve of slavery. So revising this, it was there on the previous page also. Northern states, many countries and British already had said no to slavery. The northern states of America says no. But the southern states, on the other hand, had claimed that they need slaves for their cotton and sugar industries. So the southern states of America are saying yes to slavery. Why? Is because they wanted these slaves to work on their cotton and sugar plantations which were growing. Thus, third point, slaves who provided cheap labor were considered as a necessity in the predominantly agricultural southern states. So southern states said slavery is necessity. What were the three head points we studied here? Number one, industrialized northern states say no. Southern states for their sugar and cotton plantations said yes to slavery. As a result, the southern states said it is a necessity to have slaves in their predominantly agricultural growing economy, that is on their sugar and cotton plantations. Question number 8, treatment of the slaves. The southerners were oftenly needlessly cruel and harsh in their treatment of slaves. Needlessly cruel and harsh in their treatment of slaves. This outraged many northerners, and the tension between the slave states of the south and the abolition states of the north began to grow. Very simple, southerners were harsh and cruel. This outraged many northerners, and the tension between the slave states of the south who were saying yes to slavery and the abolition states of the north who were saying no to slavery began to grow. Moving to the final question, question number 9, in the background, which led to the American Civil War. Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is a very important aspect. You need to know this question at all cost. It's a short question. Let's see what does it say. In 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe published a famous book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Author Harriet Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom's Cabin was the book, which highlighted and exposed the horrors of slavery and the miseries of the slaves. So it spoke about the conditions, horrors, and miseries of the slave. Just like in all scenarios, writing makes an influence. The book had a profound influence on the northern states, and their anti-slavery campaign began to gather movement. The southern states threatened to secede. A very important statement. This is the first time you are learning or hearing about this. The southern states threatened to secede. What does that mean? The southern states threatened to secede, that is, break away from the north. Southern states of America wanted to now break away from the northern states of America and form a confederacy of their own. This is what question 9 Uncle Tom's Cabin speaks about. 3 points. First one was the name of the author and the book, and what did the book speak about. Second one, the book, because of the book, anti-slavery campaign in the North began to gather momentum. And third one, as a result, the southern states wanted to break away and secede from the North. Moving to the next part of the chapter, Abraham Lincoln. In this part, we have 5 questions. Question 10, Lincoln became the 16th president. Lincoln's view on slavery. Question 12, Confederate States of America. Lincoln, the great emancipator. And finally, meaning of the American Civil War as per your syllabus. Question 10, Abraham Lincoln became the 16th president of the US, that is United States, in 1860. Now, when he became president, the country was passing through a very crucial phase. And what was this crucial phase? It was sharply divided over the burning issue of slavery, where the northern states said we don't, they had abolished slavery. Southern states said we needed slavery. Question 11, what was Lincoln's view on slavery? Lincoln's view on slavery was very well known. He thoroughly despised the slavery system, which he believed was a vicious and a brutal system. He was uncompromisingly opposed to slavery. Second point, as per his views, human bondage was negation and gross violation of democracy. He said if you're doing slavery, you are going against democracy, which he believed in. The foundation of democracy, which today India is also a democratic country, the foundation of democracy lies on the base or the premise that all men are equal. He would not allow any extension of slavery in the newly created states in the West. That is, he said, we will not allow slavery in the newly created states of United States, that is, newly created countries of United States, that is the West. And hence his view on slavery was clear. He clearly opposed it. Revising question 10 and 11 on this page very quickly. 16th president, keywords. 1860, when he became president, country was going through a crucial phase, which was regarding the issue of slavery. Question number 11, what was his view? He clearly despised the system of slavery. He believed it to be vicious and brutal. And he said at any cost there will be no slavery. He uncompromisingly opposed it. Second point, keywords. He said slavery, that is human bondage, is a violation of democracy. He believed in democracy. He said the foundation of democracy was that all men are equal. And hence he said that the newly created countries of the West, that is America, there will be no chance that there would be extension of slavery happening here. Question number 12, Confederate States of America. The southern states seceded. Seceded means broke away from the Union. The southern states broke away from the Union and formed the Confederate States of America. So the southern states broke away and formed the Confederate States of America. Very important, we don't call them North America or South America. We call them northern states and southern states. Now the southern states have broken away and formed the Confederate States of America. Jefferson Davis was appointed as the president of this Confederate States of America, which were the southern states which broke away, which seceded. Question 13. Now the southern states are broken away from their own Confederate States of America. Was this accepted? No, this was not accepted by Lincoln. Hence, question 13 says the great emancipator. Lincoln was determined to save the Union at all cost, even at the cost of war if necessary. So he said no one can break away. He wanted to save the Union, keep the northern and southern as one. He was determined to save this, even at the cost of war. As a result, civil war breaks out in 1861 in America. The American Civil War breaks out in 1861. Third point in the Great Emancipator. In 1863, Lincoln abolished slavery in the South. He remains enshrined in the hearts of the freemen as the great emancipator. Hence, let's revise these 3 points quickly. Emancipator means someone who frees you. So point number one, Lincoln was determined to save the Union. He did not want the Union to break. Northern and southern states had seceded. He broke civil war in 1861. 1863, he abolished slavery in the South, and he was called as the great emancipator. He is remembered as a great emancipator. That is someone who freed the slaves. Hence, I'll put this separately. Last question under the Abraham Lincoln part. I'll put this as question number 14. Meaning of the American Civil War, if they ask you. The American Civil War went on for 4 years, 1861 to 1865. It was one of the most bitter civil wars fought in history. It took the lives of 7 lakh people. Second point, it was fought to restore the American Union, as you did. The northern states and the southern states had seceded and formed their own confederacy. It was fought to restore the American Union as the southern states had seceded from the Union, and Abraham Lincoln said that no one had the right to secede from the Union. As a result, Civil War broke out. American Civil War broke out in 1861. Moving to the last part of the chapter, the third part, the Gettysburg Address. This again has 6 answers. Question 15 to question 20, the Gettysburg Address. Question 16, the consequences of the American Civil War. Question 17, you have already done question 17, the cause of the American Civil War. You learn about 2 leaders, Robert Lee and Stonewall Jackson. Question 18. Question 19, events of the American Civil War. And finally, how did Abraham Lincoln die? He was shot dead. The Gettysburg Address. In the famous Gettysburg Address, when was it given? In 1863. Gettysburg is a place. It is a place in Pennsylvania. Lincoln justified the abolition of slavery on the grounds of cherished principles of liberty and equality. of the founding fathers of United States of America. He said United States of America was basically founded on the principles of liberty and equality, and it was done by the founding fathers. You don't have to learn this. This is the Gettysburg Address. There's a part of the Gettysburg Address speech given in your textbook and your syllabus. You don't have to learn this. You can just go through this. It will not be asked as a question in your examination. Just revising this page. So what will be asked? The Gettysburg Address. 1863. Gettysburg is a place in America. The Gettysburg Address was given by Abraham Lincoln when he abolished slavery. He said, abolition of slavery was justified on the grounds of the principles, cherished principles of liberty and equality, that all men are equal. And that's what is democracy based on. And that's why that on these principles, the founding fathers of United States of America founded the country, that is the West. As a result, abolition of slavery is completely justified. Question number 16, consequences of the American Civil War. You have already done it before in the meaning. I'll put an R. R means repeated. The American Civil War fought between 1861 to 65 was one of the most bitter civil wars, and it took nearly 7 lakh people lost their lives. It took the lives of nearly 7 lakh people. Question number 17, cause of the American Civil War. I'll write a repeat here also. You have again done this answer before. Both these answers are very important, although done before also. What was the cause of the American Civil War? The American Civil War, however, was not fought over the issue of slavery. It was not fought over the issue of slavery. It was fought because the southern states had left the Union. The southern states had separated from the Union. That is, it was fought on the issue of secession. Hence, according to Lincoln, no state had the right to secede, that is, break away from the Union. Therefore, the Confederacy had to be defeated and the Union had to be restored. Moving to question number 18. Two leaders, Robert Lee and Stonewall Jackson, the Southerners fought with the determination and courage. They had brilliant generals like Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson, under whose leadership they initially won a number of victories. Last two questions for the chapter. Question 19, events of the American Civil War. Gradually, however, the North, with its superior resources, wore down the Confederacy. That is, North had more resources, more power. It wore down the Confederacy. That is the South. Second point, Lee surrendered to the Union General Ulysses Grant in April 1865, and the American Civil War came to an end in 1865. It had established the fact that American Federation was an indestructible union of states, and no states had the right to leave. That is, no state had the right to secede. 3 points, revising. North, with its superior resources, bore down the South, that is the Confederacy. Lee surrendered to the Union General Ulysses Grant, and the American War comes to an end in 1865. And it was clear that no state had the right to secede. Just giving you a little information which you did on the previous page. 1863, slavery was abolished by Abraham Lincoln, and he gave the Gettysburg Address. Question number 20, Abraham Lincoln was shot dead. This is the last question of your chapter. This also has 3 points. The first one, the war had mainly been fought in the South and had resulted in the impoverishment of the Southerners. Impoverishment means destruction or destroy. So mainly the Southern Confederacy, the southern areas where the war was fought, got a lot of damages and got destroyed. However, Lincoln made plans to repair the damages of the war and heal the wounds of the South. Going to the last point of the chapter, unfortunately for United States, 10 days after the victory of the Union, that is after the Civil War ended, 10 days after the victory of the Union, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, the greatest American president since the birth of American Republic, was shot dead. He was shot dead by whom? He was shot dead by John Wilkes Booth, an actor in the Washington Theater. This is how the great Abraham Lincoln's life came to an end. This also brings us to the end of the chapter. Before we end the chapter, I brought a picture study for you. All these questions are repeated from before. We will just go through them for revision as a picture study. It has come in many school papers. Picture is obviously of Abraham Lincoln, the president. Second one, discuss his views on the institution of slavery. This is the same as question number 11, Lincoln's view on slavery. Third one, how did Lincoln define democracy? According to Lincoln, democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This was not there in the earlier part. Please make a note of this. And finally, why did he declare war on the southern states? He declared war on the southern states because of question number 17. It was already done in question number 17, issue of secession. This brings us to the end of the chapter.